Good afternoon. Today is November 1st, 2020, and this is the inaugural episode of Freedom's Tether, the actual podcast. I have moved out of my regular studio, my car, because daylight savings time has rendered outdoor filming useless. No sunlight to be able to see anything. So I've moved inside. I'm currently sitting in the girls' school room, as you can see behind me right there. But this is the inaugural episode. This is more than just a rant in the car, if you will. Still might have those, but I might even do some full episodes in the car as well, depending on time of day, the kids, whether or not they're up or anything like that. I've managed to find some time where they are indisposed, and it's a quiet time now. So, as I said, November 1st, 2020. 2020. 2020. What else can you say about it, right? Been one hell of a year. And right now, November 1st, 2 days until the election. What have we had this year so far? January saw the death of al-Baghdadi, which the press decided to say he was an austere religious scholar. And I mispronounced those words. An austere religious scholar. There we go. So there was that. And then we saw the coronavirus. Just saw it inking its way, out of China through Europe on one side of the world, and starting to eke into our other parts of Asia, and on both coasts. Saw lockdowns all across the country, many states. And then, a little bit later, we saw some murder hornets, little glimpse of that, and then they said, "No, we're not gonna have any bit of that over there. We're gonna just deuces. We're out." Come to find out that was a ruse. They tried sneaking back in on us. But in the meantime, we saw the unfortunate deaths of some individuals. In Minneapolis, shooting in Kenosha. And then there was also here in Louisville, back in March, the death of Breonna Taylor. In Minneapolis was George Floyd. Jacob Blake was shot in Kenosha. But now what we're experiencing now, stemming from that. And of course, feeding into the election, two sides of very different coins. When with the death of George Floyd, that brought about a lot of riots. A lot of activism, BLM, Antifa. Now those two groups, they're two sides of the same coin. And up until very recently, BLM actually had on their website the their plans, their vision, and part of that vision was the destruction of the nuclear family, essentially. And like I said, it was listed on their website. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, they did take it down. But they had it out in the open for a while there. It was a call to destroy the nuclear family. Basically, the nuclear family, for those who don't know, it's the mother, the father, the family centered around a strong center, being the parents. Ultimately, their strong center is God. God is at the center of the family. The parents are there to guide the children in the teachings of the gospel and following God, following Christ. God is at the very center of the family. He is the nucleus. And there's the parents and the kids. The biblical hierarchy has it God, father, mother, kids. But BLM seeks to destroy that. They want a community-based parenting, essentially is what it is. I'm looking over their website on the About section, because that's where it was on the About section. And I mean, just reading directly from their page, BLM was founded in 2013 in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer, who was George Zimmerman. It says BLM is a global network foundation. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation Incorporated is a global organization in the U.S., UK, and Canada whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on black communities by the state and vigilantes, by combating and countering acts of violence, creating space for black imagination and innovation, and centering black joy. We are winning immediate improvements in our lives. It goes further on to say, we are expansive. We are a collective of liberators who believe in an inclusive and spacious movement. We also believe that in order to win and bring as many people along with us, we must move beyond narrow nationalism that is all too prevalent in black communities. We must ensure that we are building a movement that brings all of us to the front. That narrow nationalism that it's speaking of is not the same nationalism that was seen in Nazi Germany. And that's kind of what they're referring to in essence. That was a socialist type nationalism, which is kind of ironic if you think about it, because BLM Inc. is a Marxist organization, and Marxism is almost synonymous with socialism. Marxism uses socialism in a sense to bring about their means, to start that collective, that collective ownership of everything. Socialism itself is actually it's any of the various any of various and political theories advocating collective or governmental ownership and administration of the means of production and the distribution of goods. Marxism uses that to seek its ultimate goal. And BLM Inc. Is a Marxist organization. Their founders, at least two of the three founders, have admitted to being trained Marxists. Excuse me. Their website further states that we affirm the lives of black, queer, and trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented folks, folks with records, women, and all black lives along the gender spectrum. Our network centers those who have been marginalized within black liberation movements. We are working for a world where black lives are no longer systematically targeted for demise. We affirm our humanity, our contributions to this society, and our resilience in the face of deadly oppression. The call for Black Lives to Matter is a rallying cry for all black lives striving for liberation. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Liberation. We affirm our humanity, our contributions to this society, and our resilience in the face of deadly oppression. I don't know about you, but if I'm facing deadly oppression every day, I'm not sure that I would want to make contributions to the society that is facing me with deadly oppression. That's just me. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to do anything. I wouldn't want to, contribute to a system that is systematically targeting me. To me, that right there is a slight contradiction in terms. But if Black Lives Matter was started as an organization for black lives, why is there such a focus on the LGBTQ movement? And there's actually not too much G in there. It's mostly trans. Now, just the terminology used here, that's very, very Antifa-like. That's not a that's a hippie pretty much wrote that. Folks, trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented folks. How did immigration become part of BLM? Folks with records. That's racist to say that folks with records are black people. Do white people not have records? Women. Talking about white women too? Talking about white people with records? And all black lives along the gender spectrum. We'll leave that discussion. We'll leave the gender spectrum discussion for another time. Trans folks, disabled folks. have several people close to me who are considered disabled. They have not been marginalized. They've been able to receive their disability, their medical. But the things that strike out at me, if Black Lives Matter is an organization that was founded on police brutality, or the idea of it, even though Trayvon Martin was not killed by a cop, why is there so much focus on trans, disabled, undocumented, let's just say what it really is, illegal aliens, people who've crossed the border illegally, people with records? Like I said, that's a racist statement. Say people with records are endemically black or ultimately are black, because that's not true. There's a lot of white people with records and a lot of black people who are not in the prison systems. And then to say women and all black lives across the gender spectrum. Again, women. Are you talking about black women? White women? All women? It would appear that the only person that's not on this list are white males. It even says black, queer, and trans folks. So white, queer, or gay, white trans, they're not, or is it just black, queer, and trans folks? You know, black queer folks, and then trans folks. So is it? I'm way off topic from where I wanted to be. But those are just questions that I ask. And the other side of that coin is Antifa. Antifa. You go to Antifa.com and it reroutes to the Joe Biden website. So, and Antifa is also a Marxist organization. Shouldn't cover my mouth. It's also a Marxist organization. So that brings me around to, if BLM and Antifa, they're two sides of the same coin. One leads directly to Joe Biden's website. Unless they corrected it, and they did not. As of right now, November 1st, 2020, you go to Antifa.com, it directs you to JoeBiden.com. Comes up with this nice flash that has a picture of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden holding hands with the red and white stripes behind them. The countdown clock says election day is almost here. You know, this home stretch of the campaign. Please donate. Little thing to continue to JoeBiden.com, and it takes us into his campaign page and everything like that. Which we're going to get into some of that here in just a few minutes too. But why does Antifa's page go to Joe Biden's page? Why does it automatically redirect? Go ahead and try it. Pause this. Go to your web browser. Type in Antifa.com. It'll take you directly to Joe Biden's webpage. Why? You had two Marxist organizations that, since Memorial Day or shortly thereafter, have been rioting, destroying the cities. One of them is directly linked to Joe Biden. And as of today, he has not yet denounced Antifa, even though President Trump has denounced white supremacy at least 20 times, going all the way back to the year 2000, when David Duke, an avowed white supremacist, joined the political party that Donald Trump was a part of. And upon finding out that David Duke had joined the party, Donald Trump left the party because of David Duke joining the party. But people want to say that he's a racist. No other president has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. Not in modern history. But again, I ask why. Why are they backing Joe Biden? Now, they're backing Joe Biden because they can control Joe Biden. He's an empty shell. He's a Trojan horse, essentially. Both him and Kamala are. Now they've had Freudian slips here recently where both of them have said that it's the Harris-Biden ticket. Joe even said that he is Kamala's running mate. Joe, last time I checked, you were the one running for president. You were. The man's cognitive decline aside, they're both placeholders. They're both placeholders for the Democratic Party. They're just going to be put into office. Joe's if they win, as the polls suggest they're going to, Joe will be out of office within a year. Nancy Pelosi has already started the process to make sure that the 25th Amendment will get him out of office as quickly as possible. They'll put Kamala as the 47th president. Now, Tom Perez, the head of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, he has said that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and those like her are the future of the Democratic Party. Now, AOC and those like her, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, they are socialists. And Tom Perez has said that they're the future of the Democratic Party. Now, as I've said, socialism, a socialist is someone who practices socialism. And socialism is any of various and political theories advocating collective or governmental ownership and administration of the means of production and distribution of goods. Now, the AOC and the squad claim to be democratic socialists. Democratic socialism, it features the same system of collective ownership and management of property inherent in every other socialist system, along with all of its problems, with one slight difference. And that difference is its adherents also pinky swear that they'll never support any form of government other than one in which elections are democratically held. As if democracy guarantees there won't be a tyranny. Look at Venezuela. Look at China. Look at Russia. Putin made himself president for life. President Xi did the same. Yeah, we have a constitution, but if they're already starting, they have been eroding away at it for decades, slowly chipping away at it. Ernest Hemingway once said that, I can't remember the exact quote, and I'm going to butcher it. So while I look up his, Ernest Hemingway quote, I'm going to, compare a certain kind of socialism real quick. Now we talked about regular socialism, democratic socialism, but everyone, proponents and adherents of socialism or democratic socialism, they say that it won't be like communism. It won't be like the what leads to communism. It'll be Swedish. It'd be like Sweden. It'd be the Swedish style of socialism. The problem is the Swedish style of socialism is a mythical creation invented by socialists desperately looking for proof that socialism works. However, when they examined history and couldn't find any example of socialism working, not a single time, they fabricated a Scandinavian socialism myth. And then there's communism. And bear with me, I apologize. I'm doing too much that I wasn't expecting to do this quote. Let's see here. And I'm not on my regular computer either, so... Here we go. All right. Communism is a system in which goods are owned in common and are available to all as needed. Now, in the Marxist sense, communism is the most extreme form of socialism. In a communist utopia, all property, including many kinds of personal property, is collectively owned and managed. According to actual communists, this has never been achieved. In its most idealistic form, communism does not include an all-powerful centralized government, but rather people sharing, working, and living for the common good. However, real-world communism, how it actually turns out, just like many forms of socialism, it results in misery, death, despair, and authoritarianism. Everything communists say they oppose, while fomenting revolution, but can't seem to avoid when they come to power. So that death, despair, misery, all that stuff that they say that they oppose eventually comes to play, comes to pass when they come into power. But there was that word, revolution, liberation, BLM. Now, Ernest Hemingway, in his 1926 novel, The Sun Also Rises, brought about a law of motion, gradually, then suddenly. Basically, in the book, one of the two characters are talking. One of them asks, "How did you go bankrupt?" The other one says, 2 ways: gradually, then suddenly. Meaning slowly, and then all at once it happened. And that's what's been happening to our society. Gradually, it's been decaying. The Constitution has been eroded away. And then suddenly it's going to happen. Now I have a few minutes remaining. In contrast to socialism, we've got capitalism, which is an economic system characterized by private and corporate ownership of capital goods, by investments that are determined by private decision and determined mainly by competition in a free market. And then you have free market capitalism with a safety net. And this is what a lot of people think socialism is, or what the Swedish model is. But free market capitalism with a safety net is a market-based capitalistic economy that includes publicly funded social safety nets, such as welfare and food stamps, for those who are unable to support themselves. This is the system utilized by countries such as Sweden, which has a largely free market regulations, making it easy to start a business, a tax-friendly atmosphere, and laws that protect honest businesses and their owners. USA has something similar to that, albeit there are more regulations on the free market thanks to the Democrats. But ultimately it comes down to this. This is your socialist cheat sheet. You can take it with you, courtesy of Arguing with Socialists, written by Glenn Beck. If it's unpopular to say you're a communist, then just say you're a socialist. If it's unpopular to say you're a socialist, then say you're a democratic socialist. If it's unpopular to say you're a democratic socialist, then say you're a Democrat. That's that progression. Which brings us back to Joe and Kamala being placeholders, Trojan horses. Kamala is the most liberal senator in the Senate. It's in its history. and she's going to pave the way for AOC to become president should Joe and Kamala become elected. However, there are some things to think about as we're 2 days out from the election. Why don't the cameras pan at Biden's campaign events? They're not rallies. They're not. They're events. President Trump holds rallies. You can't call what Biden does a rally. There's not enough people there for it to be a rally. It's an event. The cameras don't pan because there aren't enough people there. There's a video came out the other day, end of last week, showed him coming down some rock stairs, and there were maybe 20, 30 people there. But I want to note that while the cameras don't pan at the Biden events, because pretty much no one is there, and Trump rallies are packed to the brim, 50 Cent, I want to note that 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, Ice Cube, even a rapper I never heard of before, Lil Pump, have all come out in support of President Trump. And, well, they come out in support of President Trump because of the tax plans. The pander bear Joe Biden said his favorite song was Aretha Franklin's Respect. R-E-S-P-C-T. That's not respect, that's respect. That's pandering to the finest. The man couldn't even spell the song correctly. Not to mention pandering. Let's not forget to mention, I should say, when we're talking about pandering, we're talking about, who else? I mentioned Despacito, when he played that for an event in Miami with Latino voters. And then there's also Biden's views on court packing, which court packing itself would undo the constitutional fabric that holds the judicial system together. But other things that the Democrats plan on doing once they, if they were to gain control of the Senate, even if Biden, if Biden gets the White House and they get control of the Senate, they're going to, even if Biden doesn't want to pack the courts, they're going to look at adding states and liberalizing the Senate. But by packing the court, it causes the Supreme Court to become a political body, and it pretty much destroys the separation of the branches, ultimately sabotaging our government. However, what Biden has thought about doing, instead of, along with potentially court packing, but not putting term limits on justices, because a Supreme Court justice has a lifetime appointment. What he wants to do is he wants to leave those lifetime appointments in, not so much creating a term limit, but he wants to rotate the justices out to lower courts and then rotating them up, sort of like a majors league, minors league kind of thing with baseball. The problem is it is term limits, and that's unconstitutional. That is unconstitutional. when a Supreme Court justice is nominated, is confirmed by the Senate. They are confirmed to be a Supreme Court justice, not to be rotated out for someone else. That is unconstitutional. The other thing Democrats want to do, they want to get rid of the Electoral College. Now, the U.S. is a democratic republic, a constitutional republic. It's not a direct democracy. The Electoral College is a mediating institution. It's non-majoritarian. Other instances of non-majoritarianism within the Constitution would be the First and the Fifth Amendments, and even the Senate is non-majoritarianism because the Senate gives equal representation to the states, whereas the House is based on population. The Senate is not. So the House is not non-majoritarianism. Majoritarian. The Senate is non-majoritarian. Equal representation is built into the Electoral College. If we lose the Electoral College, small states such as, Kentucky, Tennessee, these smaller states in the middle, they become true flyover states. The president would be chosen by New York, LA, Chicago, Houston, and a couple other of these major cities. The candidates would only campaign in these cities. They wouldn't campaign in the smaller areas or in the battleground states, the states that determine who wins. But they would campaign in these smaller geographical markets, New York, LA, those areas. They wouldn't campaign anywhere else in the country. And the country would become a true democracy. It would become a true majoritarian system. Mob rule. That's not a country that I want to live in. Ultimately, I don't think it's a country you want to live in either. So with 2 days left before the election, with over 80 million people having already voted, ask yourself why, after the last presidential debate, the highest trending thing on Google, the highest trending search thing on Google was, how can I change my vote? And that was the highest in Pennsylvania as well. Joe Biden wants to end fracking. He wants to end the fossil fuel industry, which is something that holds Pennsylvania afloat. I was going to go into something on climate change, but I'll go into that at another time. Because while climate change is the religion of the left, it's not something that's particularly high up on the list of things going into this election, especially since a new coral reef was discovered off of the coast of Australia. Happens to be the size of the Empire State Building, and along with that, they found 30 or 31 new species of fish. But they say the Earth is dying. But is it dying, or is it really just doing what the earth does? So why don't we take our cues from the earth? The earth is doing what it does to recover. We should do the same for our country. If Joe Biden wins this election, and we in the Senate goes to the Democrats, that's the end of this country as we know it. Some of you out there might say, great, good, yay. But is that really something we want? Do you really want to lose the ability to parent your child? The ability to own your own home, your own car? Because that's what it will come to. Maybe not in the next 4, 10, 4, 8, or 12 years. But it will come to that. We will lose what makes this country great. I pray that Donald Trump wins this election. Based on the enthusiasm, it looks like he's going to. But we'll see. Like I said, I pray. Polls are showing, not really, there's evidence showing, I'm not sure, I don't think it was polls, I don't remember where exactly. It came, where exactly it was shown from. The Senator Mike Lee said that it's showing that black and Latino voters are moving to the right, while suburban white voters are moving to the left, and that's evident. Very evident. The black and Latino voters are seeing what the Democrat leadership is doing to their city. Demographically speaking, black and Latino voters live in the inner city, are more urban. They're seeing what the Democrat leadership is doing to their city. And the suburban whites don't see the same thing. But they watch the mainstream news, the mainstream media, cable news, and they're blinded. I was blinded. Opened my eyes roughly 4 years ago. Now's your chance to do the same. Are you going to remain blind? Or are you going to open your eyes and see the truth? See the Democrats for what they are, Biden and Kamala for what they are. Trump's not perfect. He has his foibles. He's done some bad things. Said some bad things as well. He hasn't done too many bad things. He hasn't, I don't know, pimped out his son to foreign companies to make money. Leveraging his office for power. But that's also not why we elected Trump. We elected Trump because of what he was going to do. He was going to save this, do what he can to save the country. to get the job done. And that's what he's doing. One more quick thing, and then we'll call it a day. This whole Hunter Biden story, people ask, what does this have to do with me? What does this have to do with Joe Biden being president? Even some of those in conservative media wonder, what's the big deal with this? Does this really impact voters? And ultimately, no. Ultimately, no. The whole Hunter Biden scandal does not affect voters directly. Now, it did then. But that shows what Joe is willing to do with his office, with the power that his office provides. As vice president, the evidence shows that he, as vice president, allegedly pulled the levers of his office to elevate his son to a position to where he would earn substantial amounts of money. And in communications from Hunter Biden, that money was divvied out amongst the family, with a large portion going to Joe. What's to say he's not going to try and do something worse, using taxpayer dollars, as he did then when he becomes president? He becomes president and he does something worse. He's already beholden to China. They own him. What if they call in that debt while he's in office before the Democrats take him out of office? I don't mean take him out I mean 25th Amendment take him out. So think about that. If he did something like that while he was vice president, what's to stop him from doing it as president? Think about Hunter. I feel bad for the kid. He's not really a kid, he's older than me, but I feel bad for him being used by his dad. So if Joe's going to use his own son in such a way, what's he going to do to us? What's he going to do to the American people, to you and me, to people he don't even know? Keep in mind, he was ready to take a union worker out back and throw down over some questions about the Second Amendment, saying, quote, I don't work for you. Who do you work for, Joe? Trump asked you a question, who built those cages? I'm asking, who do you work for? Who built the cages, Joe? Who do you work for, Joe? Who do you work for? If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This has been our inaugural episode of Freedom's Tether. This is November 1st, 2020. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. You can also find me on social media at Freedom's Tether, Facebook, Parler, Twitter. I'm going to be starting an Instagram feed shortly, here soon. I'm getting it all in the umbrella. But make sure you like and subscribe on all social media. Hit the little bell for notifications so you can see when the new episodes are uploaded. I'm going to be doing them after this week. I'm going to be doing them on a weekly basis. This week we're we've got the election, so we're going to be doing something on the election a little bit later this week. Won't be as long. I'm going to shorten them up. After today's episode, I had a lot I wanted to get through, and I was kind of scatterbrained a little bit, and I got this cat right here who's been distracting me this whole time. Right there. It's blue. Yeah. Please like and subscribe. Like I said, hit the little bell for notifications. Give a 5-star rating on there. That is required. And leave a comment. Don't really care what it is. It's great, whatever. I don't care. Just leave something. Look forward to seeing you next time. Like I said, next time it won't be as long as this one. And you made it this far. Love you. Thank you. See you next time, guys. Love you. Bye.